Good day, everyone. Actually, this is the continuation of our Chapter 9, Other Prison and Jail Functions and the Classification Process. Nagkaroon lang po ng konting interruption dun sa pagbi-video ko dun sa nauna, kaya po gumawa na lang po ako ng part 2. So, let's continue the classification process. Okay, so like what I have said in the previous video na kailangan pong i-classify ang mga inmates, okay, depende po yan sa circumstances na present po doon sa inmate na yon, okay. Magkakaroon po ng categories ang mga prisoners, okay. Meron po yan procedures sa classification. Una po, ida-diagnose yung inmate. Okay? Ida-diagnose po siya kasi kailangan po nilang malaman ano ba yung ibibigay po na program doon po sa inmate na yon. Okay? Because, di ba, we have different programs inside the jail or prison, kagaya na lang po ng educational, we have livelihood, we have recreational program, we have also medical and dental program, okay, religious program, and so on. Okay? So, ida-diagnose po siya wherein magkakandak po ang social worker ng social case study doon sa inmate. Okay? For example, during diagnosis po, malalaman nila doon kung siya ba ay nakapag-aral, okay? Ano ba yung kanyang religion, ano ba yung kanyang mga pinagkakaabalahan, mga sports, mga arts, okay? Nakapag-aral ba siya or hindi? Okay? Meron ba siyang mga um, sakit na kailangan na i-treat? Okay? So, ita-diagnose po yun lahat. So, ngayon, upon diagnosing, magkakaroon na po dyan ng treatment planning. Ano ba yung possible na ibibigay na program doon sa inmate na yon? So, nalaman nila during the case study na hindi siya nakapag-aral. Elementary lang. So, pwede pong bigyan siya ng educational program. Okay? Bibigyan siya ng religious program. Okay? Magaling siya sa basketball. So, possibly, pwede siyang sumali sa mga recreational program. Okay? And also, pwede siyang i-subject sa medical treatment kung kailangan po niya ng treatment. Okay? Kung meron siyang sakit. Okay? Ngayon, nandoon na po. Nakaplano na po yun lahat. Pagka nakaplano na yun lahat, nagkakaroon na po ng execution doon sa programs na ibibigay doon sa inmate. Okay? And then, magkakaroon po ng reclassification. Bakit po reclassification? Okay, kasi po, possibly, baka hindi po naging effective yung mga naunang program na ibinigay mo. Hindi po umepekto sa kanya. So, i-reclassify siya, babalik po ulit sa unang procedure, ida-diagnose ulit, and then magkakaroon ulit ng treatment planning, and then gagawin niya yung mga program na yon. Then, kung di naman effective, possible, magkakaroon na naman ng reclassification. Okay? So, we have the RDC or Reception and Diagnostic Center. Okay? The Reception and Diagnostic Center is a specialized service designed to service big correction systems. The casework or individualized method of diagnosis and treatment of the convicts are held at the Reception and Diagnostic Center. Diyan po i-diagnose yung mga inmates. Okay? For a period of 60 days. Okay? Upon arrival at the prison, ikaw po ay pupunta sa RDC for the diagnosis. That is for a period of 60 days. Okay? Commencing from their commitment. Pagka-commit mo sa loob ng kulungan, ayun po, mag-i-start na po yung 60 days mo sa RDC. Okay? Ito po, yung 60 days po, 5 days po, which is allocated sa quarantine period. 5 days pong ika-quarantine ka. Okay? Wherein the inmates and detainees are given physical examination to segregate those suspected of having contagious or infectious disease, orientation with prison rules, and the conduct of interview by the RDC staff. So, yun po guys, ang mangyayari po sa quarantine, ikaw po ay kakandak po nila sa'yo ay physical examination. Baka po meron kang po mga nakakahawang sakit. At ganun din po, during the quarantine, bibigyan ka po ng mga rules and regulation at magkakandak po ng interview. I-orient ka po dyan ng mga RDC staff. Okay, 5 days po yun. And then, yung remainder na 55 days po ay i-reserve doon sa mga iba pang procedure, kagaya na lang po ng psychiatric, sociological, psychological, educational, vocational, and religious examination, wherein doon po i-undertake nung bagong inmate. Okay? And the result of which shall serve as the basis of the individualized treatment program. Kagaya po ng sinabi ko kanina, di ba? I-diagnose siya. Okay? 5 days quarantine. Okay, isolate ka. Baka meron kang mga nakakawang sakit. Bibigyan ka ng orientation. Yung 5 days na yon, i-interview ka ng staff. And then, yung remaining 55 days po, andyan, i-examine ka po doon sa sa psychiatric behavior mo, sa sociological, psychological, okay? Educational, pag-aaralan po nila kung merong hindi ka pa nakapagtapos, ano ba yung hindi mo na ituloy na pag-aaral mo, vocational, okay? Ganon din po yung religious examinations mo. Aalamin po nila lahat yon kung ano po yung background mo. Okay? So, that is for a total of 60 days sa RDC. So, take note po, 60 days ka po sa RDC, 5 araw sa quarantine cell, and then 55 days po sa mismong pagdadiagnose po nila sa'yo bilang inmate. Okay? Ito po ang reception procedure sa BGMP or sa mga jails natin. Okay? The desk officer shall carefully check the credential. Ito po guys, pag ikukumit ka po sa jail, kaya ikukulong sa loob ng jail, ito po yung procedure. The desk officer shall carefully check the credentials of the persons bringing in the inmates to determine his or their identity and authority. Okay? So, syempre po yung desk officer, check po kung yung mga nasa commitment paper po, okay, yung mga credentials po doon, ay tama po yung taong ikinukulong nila doon sa mga nandun sa papeles. Okay, ganun din po yung authority nung nagkukulong. Okay, and then after nun, shall examine carefully the arrest report and the authenticity of the commitment order or the mittimus in due to the form of to determine whether there has been committed under legal authority as provided for Section 3, Rule number 8 of the Rules of the Court. So, syempre naman po, kailangan po ma-determine nila ng mabuti yung arrest report at nung kung authentic ba or totoo ba yung commitment order or yung mittimus na isinusumite. And then, pagkatapos mo niyan, the admitting officer or jailer shall search carefully the inmates for weapons or other contrabands. Ayan po. Magkakaroon po tayo ng tinatawag na Operation Shakedown. Take note, Operation Shakedown, ang tawag po doon sa gagawin ng admitting officer na pagsesearch doon sa mga weapon at contraband nung inmate na ikukulong pa lamang or ikukumit pa lamang. Okay? The admitting officer or jailer shall take all cash and other property from the inmate or detainee. List them down on a receipt form on duplicate. Receipt po yan, hindi po recipe. Receipt form on duplicate, duly signed by him and countersigned by the inmate. Okay, ito po guys, no, lahat po ng pera at mga property nung inmate, mga jewelry, yan po, kailangan po i-confiscate yan. And then, magkakaroon po ng listahan, doon po nila receipt form, 2 kopya. Okay, doon po lalagay lahat ng mga na confiscate na mga pagmamay-ari ng inmate, kagaya po ng pera or ng mga jewelry po ng inmate, and then kailangan po niyang pirmahan. And then, pagka-commit po, ayan po, mandatory po yan na procedure, kailangan pong i-fingerprint at kunin po ang photograph ng inmate. And then, the admitting officers or jailers shall accomplish a jail booking report in 4 copies, attracting there to the photographer of the inmate to be distributed as follows. So, yan po, gagawa po sila ng jail booking report. O, 4 po na kopya yan, ibibigay po sa central office, sa regional office, provincial, at saka sa mismong jail. Ayan po, newly admitted inmate shall be strip search. Ayan, i-strip search po buong katawan niya at saka yung mga gamit po niya doon sa bags. Okay, mag-search po nila yan, baka po meron pong contraband. And then after po niyan, the jail physician or head health officer shall immediately conduct thorough medical examination. Okay, magkakaroon ka po ng medical exam. I-interview ka nila, ano ba yung mga sakit mo, ano ba yung mga nararamdaman mo. Okay. Inmates with contagious disease shall be isolated. Yung meron po mga nakakahawang sakit, kaagad-agad po yan, ina-isolate. Okay? The jail physician or local health officer to include his or her medical history shall accomplish a medical report. For example, meron ka pong sakit sa puso, kaya nakulong ka, so dapat po i-attach po doon yung medical history mo at dapat po mag-accomplish si local health officer ng medical report mo. Okay? And then, yan na po guys, magkakandak po ng social case study sa social worker. Kung ano po yung proper na classification mo at segregation mo. Sentenced prisoner shall be provided with jail clothing. Okay, yung mga sentensyado po, mga inmate, ipoprovide po nila yung jail clothing. However, for the purpose of inmate security, he may be allowed to wear civilian's clothes under certain condition. Okay? The inmate shall then be briefed with jail rules and regulations. So, i-instruct ka. Okay, magkakaroon po ng orientation kung ano po yung mga rules and regulations sa loob ng kulungan. Okay, the warden shall maintain a prison record of all inmates bearing their personal and individual circumstances. Okay, warden po yun warden po ang magmi-maintain ng mga prison record. And then, pagkatapos po ng reception procedure, yan, yung inmate po, ma-assign na po siya sa kanyang quarter kung saan po siya selda matutulog. Okay, or makukulong. If available, the inmate should be issued all materials that he will be using during his confinement. Okay? Ang dapat po talaga dyan is ipoprovide po ng mga jails natin yung mga pangangailangan ng inmate, kagaya po ng beddings, okay, ng mga pillows, but some of the jails, hindi po nila ma-provide yun due to population, sobrang dami po nila. Kaya po talaga, minsan required na lang nila na yung mga inmate na ikukumit, sila na po mag-provide ng kanilang mga beddings. Okay. A jail may be used for safekeeping of any fugitive from justice from any province. So, pwede po ikulong yan yung mga fugitive of justice sa mga jails po natin. Ito po, the detainee shall be presumed innocent. Hence, should be separated from convicted prisoner. Okay, take note po guys kapag po detainee pa lang po siya, ibig sabihin, wala pa pong final judgment. Undergoing trial pa lang siya. So, hindi pa po siya criminal. So, still, siya po ay presume as innocent. Innocent. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, pag inosente pa po siya, kailangan po niyang ma-separate dun sa mga convicted prisoner. Kasi kahit po jail, meron po mga convicted prisoner dyan, ang kanilang sentensya po ay hindi po tataas sa 3 taon. Okay? Upon receipt of the detainee, he should be immediately apprised of the rules and regulation of the dialect he understand. Okay? So, dapat po, kaagad-agad pong i-orient yung inmate doon sa mga rules and regulation, doon sa dialect or sa language na naiintindihan niya. Okay? And then, to manifest his agreement in writing, ayan, pipirma po siya dyan. Sign agreement shall construe a treatment of convicted prisoner. Detainee with abnormal health. Okay, certification shall not be made to work, but he may be made to clean his cells for hygienic purposes. Okay, kung meron pong mga abnormal health condition po yung inmate, okay, dapat po meron po siyang certification na hindi po siya pwedeng magtrabaho. Pero still, kailangan po niyang linisan yung kanyang selda or yung kanyang place doon sa loob ng selda for hygienic purposes naman po. Para po malinis pa rin po yung area niya. Okay? Agreement certification shall be made and submitted to the proper court and shall form part of the record. Full credit for the preventive imprisonment shall commence from that of the agreement. Meron po kasi tayong tinatawag na preventive imprisonment. Okay, for example, undergoing trial pa lang po siya. Okay, pwede pong mag-commence or mag-start po yung preventive imprisonment po once po nag-agree siya sa lahat ng rules and regulation na kailangan niyang i-follow sa loob ng kulungan. Okay? Next naman na po, pagkatapos po ng procedure, ito na po yung composition ng RDC or Reception and Diagnostic Center. Una po dyan, we have the psychiatrist. Psychiatrist examines the convict and prepares an abstract of the emotional and mental constitution of the individual. His recommendation pertaining to transfer, custody, and care indicates the type of work, educational training, recreation, and disciplinary treatment proper for the convict. Okay? Psychiatric po, test po niya or i-examine po niya yung inmate sa kanyang emotional and mental upbringing. Okay? Normal po ba siya? Wala po ba, hindi po ba nasiraan sa pag-iisip yung inmate? So, possible po, i-recommend po ni psychiatrist kung if ever man pong ma-diagnose niyang meron pong something sa kanyang mental condition, i-recommend po ni psychiatrist na siya po ay ilipat sa ibang custody kagaya po ng mga mental health facilities. Okay? Psychologist naman po, magkaiba po ang psychiatrist sa psychologist ha. Psychiatrist po, siya po mag-examine sa mental upbringing ng inmate. Psychologist po is in terms of behavior. Okay? Behavior ng inmate. Okay? So, kung for example, ayan po, psychologist sa mental level as well as general interest of the convict is determined by the psychologist through a series of abstract tests and interview with the convict. This would point out the outstanding factors which contributed to the individual's maladjustment. Kagaya na lang po ng pag-uugali ng mga inmate na siya po ay troublemaker. Okay, pag mga ganong klase na po ng inmate, kailangan po siyang isegregate doon sa mga ibang inmate para po hindi po siya makapanakit doon sa mga ibang inmates natin. Next, sociologist. Ayan po, mga social worker po yan. Sociologist is concerned with the personal history of the convict to ascertain his situation and circumstances in life. This is mainly undergone by interviews with the family, friends, and relatives of the convict. Kaya nga po, meron po mga social worker, okay, mga sociologists wherein kailangan po nilang examine or magkaroon po ng case studies po doon sa personal history ng convict. Pwede po yan ma-attain by having interview po sa mga family members, sa mga kaibigan, at ganun din po yung mga relatives ng convict. Education officer, ayan, educational strength and weaknesses of the individuals determined by the education officer in order to recommend the appropriate and suitable educational program for the convict. His report is always part of the case summary of the inmate. Ito po ang maganda, guys. Kay education officer po, determine po niya kung ano po yung suitable na educational program na para sa'yo. For example, meron kang knowledge sa pagwe-welding, mga ganun na klase. Pwede ka po niyang i-recommend for vocational education wherein pwede kang mag-enroll sa mga pagwe-welding, ganun, mga automotives, kung doon ka magaling, electricians, kaya ganun din po yung mga hindi po nakapagtapos ng elementary or ng high school, pwede pong i-recommend yan ng education officer na mag-undergo ka ng educational program sa loob ng kulungan. Next po, yan po vocational, yun yung mga skills ng mga convict, ayan po, kasali na po doon sa educational officer, tandem na po yung mga yan. Chaplain, ayan, kagaya po ng sinabi ko doon sa previous na video, chaplain po para po sa mga religious services sa loob ng kulungan. Okay? Religious affiliation and belief of the convict is ascertained by the chaplain. Kaya to conduct of the inmate is reflected with the degree of his faith to his religion and thus very essential in determining the appropriate program. Okay? Nang sa ganun po, kahit papaano, ang purpose ng religious program po is to para naman po mas magkaroon ng bring light doon sa pagbabago ng inmate, okay? Para may sa buhay niya yung mga ibinibigay na mga wordings ng mga chaplain natin in terms of religion. Okay, para magbago po sila, to give them counseling. Okay. Medical officer naman po, physical examination of the convict is conducted by the medical officer to obtain the medical history. This will be needed in the segregation of the convict should illness which are contagious be detected. Okay, yan na po, medical officer. Siya nga po yung mag-examine sa physical upbringing naman po ng convict natin. Kasi po, kailangan niyang i-determine kung meron po mga nakakahawang sakit yung inmate, nang sa ganun, kaagad-agad pong ma-isolate yung inmate na yon. And then, custodial correctional officer. Ito po, the observation made by the custodial officer will determine how will convict react with other inmates and will play a role in choosing the type of custody of the prisoner. Okay, ito po custodial correctional officer po ang mamimili po kung ano po ang degree of security na para sa iyo. Okay, kailangan ba ng maximum security, medium, or minimum security. Okay? So, yun po yung mga composition ng RDC at yun po yung mga iba't iba nilang tasks, duties, and responsibilities. So, yun po ang discussion natin for our Chapter 9, the jail and prisons and their functions, and also the diversification, segregation, and the classification process. So, that's all for today, and thank you. Please be updated for more videos.